Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And in this episode, we're going to be doing not so much a follow up, but a secondary story relating to one we did recently with regards to parental rights over their children in the face of a constant onslaught of sexualization by the left. And this time, you have a man who calls himself a human rights campaigner. He was previously a gay rights campaigner, Peter Tatchell. But once the gay rights matter was put to bed and that gay people have every right exactly the same as everyone else, he found he had nothing to do. So he decided to become, I don't know, a purveyor of perversion, I suppose. And now he's opened his big lefty gob and once more put his size 6 tiny effeminate foot right in it. He's telling parents that they have no right to know what goes on with their children. Again, the left and their perversion and their obsession with children and taking power away from parents and giving it to themselves. The left are dangerous and they are perverted and they need to be kept well away from children. And yet here we are, another one. Anyway, I will put myself down into the corner here and we will take a look at this article and wonder why this is allowed in this day and age and why people like this aren't locked up and thoroughly investigated for all sorts of nasty things involving children. Here we go. So here's the article. It's in today's Daily Mail, and that headline needs to put the fear of God into every parent who's got a child at school. Honestly, it is one of the most frightening headlines you're likely to see. Human rights campaigner and general tosser Peter Tatchell divides opinion between himself and everyone else after claiming schools shouldn't tell parents if a child shares they are transgender because they have a right to privacy. No, you sad, dangerous, perverted socialist cuck. Children do not have a right to privacy from their parents. What this is the left want to get their disgusting fingers on your children. And they do this via these socialist teachers who want to rip children from the families. And they can introduce secrets and hidden messages and agendas and use it to cleave a child away from the family. They will do that because they want their hands on children. They love children. These people, these socialists that go into teaching, they love children and not in a good way. They want their hands on these children. Hey, let's get this one. He's a boy, but let's see what he's like in a little dress. Or, yeah, let's make him feel like he needs to be wearing a dress. They are perverted scum. They are monsters. They need investigating. And the very fact that they want to keep this from parents tells you all you need to know about teachers and about the left. And especially about monsters like Peter Tatchell, who says that a child shouldn't have his parents informed if he's about to make a monstrous decision that could affect him and permanently damage him either physically or mentally for the rest of his life. And he says the parents shouldn't be involved. This guy needs to be investigated and locking up. But anyway, we'll get in before I get too angry about this because I foresee a lot of anger in this one. Nadim Saawi, he's the education secretary, claimed parents must be told if their child is trans by teachers. Absolutely. The very, very first thing a teacher should do is get on the phone immediately. Education Secretary said schools have a duty to safeguard those children. They do. They have a duty of care, and that is mental as well as physical. And there's no way a child of, say, 8 knows he's transgender. He could be confused. He could have been targeted by the trans lobby who target children because they love children. They like children, but not in a good way. They want to get their disgusting hands on children. Trans campaigner and Debbie Hayton agreed parents must be told. And that's a bit much coming from a woman, man, who dresses in a frock, pretends to be a woman, and pushes the trans lobby. But it's amazing that even he says that children's parents should be told. Human rights campaigner and child endangerer Peter Tatchell said children have a right to privacy, which we've already agreed they don't. He needs to have a right of privacy. He needs to be alone, in solitary, in a prison for the rest of his life and kept well away from children. A human rights campaigner and complete... Whoa, there's words. He's an odious, crawling, seeping wound of a man. Has divided opinion, the only division being between him and the other perverts and the 99.99% of society that aren't anything like him, after claiming teachers should not tell parents if children disclose to them they are transgender. Last week, Education Secretary Nadeem Zahawi claimed schools have a duty of safeguarding children by informing their parents if they disclose to a teacher they are transgender. Transgender teacher and activist Debbie Hayton, 54, appeared on Good Morning Britain alongside human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell to discuss the issue today. Debbie claimed that while personal information should always be disclosed in a controlled and respectful way, teachers should not keep secrets from the students' parents. No, nothing should be kept from parents. Nothing. And anyone who says that anything should be kept from a parent needs to be on a register immediately and needs to be banned from going within a mile of a school, a mile of a child. And we all know that the likes of Tatchell do like young boys, don't they? They love those young boys. Peter said, he's Peter now, is he? Children have the same right to privacy as adults. No, they don't. No, they don't. And telling parents they're transgender could put risks of emotional and psychological bullying. Not telling parents puts them at risk. And parents have an absolute and legal right to know. A doctor can't administer any kind of medical procedure without the parents being told. It's a legal requirement that parental consent is given. And just look at that odious shart of a man. He is... you couldn't even begin to tell you how awful that man is. And look, he has to have a gay flag behind him just to let you know that he is gay. You couldn't tell by looking at him because he just... Oh, Christ. He makes my skin crawl. He's always made my skin crawl. He's just one of those... He's not even human. He's like a wraith. He's like the spectre at the feast of child endangerment, isn't he? Anyway, getting on before I completely lose it. He said the number one priority is what is in the interest and welfare of the child. That must come first. Yes, and what is the most important thing in the interest and welfare of the child is that the parents are involved. You haven't got children, have you, Peter? You haven't got them. What's your surname? Oh, it's Tatchell. For a moment, Peter, I thought it was File. Having said that, children do have a right to privacy like everyone else. No, they don't. And if we have a situation where teachers and spies and snitches, then it will break down trust. Teachers are in loco parentis, the place of the parents. If a child tells a teacher something, it's the equivalent of telling a parent something. The teachers have an immediate obligation to pass that on. That's the end of that argument, you sad know-nothing piece of... Pupils won't feel confident divulging things to teachers. Pupils shouldn't feel confident. Pupils shouldn't tell teachers anything. Teachers are dangerous. I wouldn't tell a teacher anything. The campaigner said that divulging a child is transgender could put them at risk from parents who may pressure them into changing their gender identity. Hang on a minute. You're the one who's sitting there going, oh, that's who they are. They can't change their gender identity. So how come now all of a sudden parents have this magical power that they can change the gender identity? No, you're full of it, aren't you? You're full of it. Also, you don't know whether that child is transgender or not. May just be peer pressure. Maybe he's confused. Maybe the trans lobby have targeted that child, because they do. They target children because we know they love getting their disgusting fingers on children. It could, of course, put some trans children at risk if parents are informed without the consultation of the child. What do you mean? There's no consultation of a child. A child does as he's told. You don't consult a child, you raise a child. But you wouldn't know that, would you, you childless oik? There are some parents who are very hostile to having a trans child. There are some parents who are very hostile to having a child who grows up to be a complete and utter wanker. But I'm afraid your parents had no option, did they? And we know that some trans children are subjected to emotional and psychological bullying to stop them being trans. Well, that's life, mate. And when you grow up and realise, after undergoing the puberty blocking drugs, having your cock cut off and having psychological help, and then all of a sudden you realise that you weren't trans after all, and you wish your parents had have stopped you. But it's too late then, isn't it, Peter? Because people like you have permanently damaged a child, you dangerous pervert. Obviously, it would be ideal for parents to be informed, but teachers should consult with the child what the child wants. No, no, no. The teacher immediately tells the parents. End of story. The parents are the ones who are legally in charge, not the teachers, despite the want in them. Jesus, these teachers want to get hold of that child. They don't want the parents having any rights or says. We saw this the other day where the Welsh socialists want to remove the right of parents to even vet sex education classes. They're not even telling the parents what in them, and if a parent says anything, the parent is breaking the law. This is the law they want to bring in. Removing the right of parents as to the education of their children. That's socialism for you. And everyone who votes socialism is voting for child abusers. If you vote for a socialist, you're voting for your children to be abused mentally, physically, possibly sexually by socialists. They damage children and they destroy families. It then goes on to other crap that these people say. That's Debbie. That's that man, Debbie Hayton. Please. I look at that and I don't think anything that comes out of that mouth has any bearing on my life. That's a mentally ill man. Why would he have any say over how your children are raised? Viewers were divided over the issue, with several claiming parents should be informed, while others felt a child should be able to come out when they're ready. Yet coming out when you're ready is not the same as not having information or not having family support from your parents. Coming out sexually is a completely different thing from a mental illness. Transgenderism or body dysphoria is a mental condition. Who is the trained doctor? Is Peter Tatchell a trained psychiatrist? No, that's right. He's not. What is he? Oh, that's right. A man who's got nothing to do. Are teachers trained psychologists and medical doctors? No, that's right. They weren't clever enough to become doctors. They joined the Labour Party or the Communist Party and were informed that if they became teachers, it would help the great cause. It'll get them closer to what they really, really like, which is children. So neither of them are doctors, neither of them are psychologists, and yet they're saying that a medical condition should not be passed along to the parents. And this is why they're dangerous. This is a horror story waiting to happen. And this constant obsession by the left, they're obsessed with children. And it's got to worry every parent. Every parent. Anyway, I'm gonna come up before I lose my rag and blow my top. If you're the parent of a child, phone up the head teacher of your school and find out what the policy is. And if the policy is that they will retain that information internally and not pass along to parents, pull your child from that school. Because if they're not telling you about that, what the hell else aren't they telling you about? What the hell else are they covering up regarding your children? And it is absolutely no wonder at all that home teaching is one of the fastest growing areas of education at the moment. I can see why. My son's 31. We didn't have this issue back then, because back 25 years ago when he was going into school at 6, you weren't worried about the forces that were acting on children. What you were worrying about is, can he read, write and arithmetic? You know? Nowadays, it's they won't teach them to read and write or count, but God, they'll give them gender identity lessons at 4, because the sick monsters of the left have infiltrated like a cancer into the schooling system. And the only way you're going to break this is to homeschool. And everyone needs to homeschool and pull your children away from these dangerous monsters and their perversions and their obsession. They're absolutely obsessed with children. Anyway, I'm going to stop there because I can see it just going to go bang. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications on future output. Leave a like, leave a comment. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, keep your children close, and goodbye.